with a total of $980,295.29.
Second.
Council Member Larson has made a motion to pay the consideration of claims as presented, and that was
Cox.
Cox. I'm so sorry. Excuse me. So Councilmember Cox has made a motion to pay the consideration of claims as presented and seconded by Councilmember Bailey. Do we have any amendments or discussion at this time? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion passes. Is there anything additional that the committee needs to review or discuss?
Your Honor, I did want to point out that one of the claims that was included in this finance run is the final check for the Riverton water supply project to High Country Construction for $186,948.84, and that payment is scheduled for release on March 31st.
Thank you. And then how many payments are left on the PZ4 transmission line? Do you know off top there?
This is the final payment to the contractor. Engineering, I'll defer to Kyle.
So that's the last for both of us.
Mr. Chairman, it is the last for the contractor, but we will have probably 2 more pay applications, potentially 3 from our consultant. And that's because we'll have them come back for startup procedures. We have a pressure reducing vault that we need to get in there and back online. And then we also will have them prepare as-built drawings, so that those items are still outstanding for the engineering side.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Seeing nothing else, the Finance Committee will stand adjourned at 6:48.
I now call the March 16th, 2021 regular meeting of the Riverton City Council to order at 7 p.m. Councilwoman Borders will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and invocation will be given to us by Councilman Rhoda.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for today's offerings, opportunities, and many blessings. We ask that at this time you give us the intelligence to know and the wisdom to choose when making decisions for our wonderful city of Riverton and all the constituents within. We ask that you be with us at this time and help us to lead and make the best choices. Lord, we pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Would the city clerk please conduct roll call?
Yes, Your Honor. Councilwoman Carla Borders.
Here.
Councilman Lindsay Cox.
Here.
Councilman Mike Bailey.
Here.
Councilman Corey Rhoda.
Here.
Councilman Kyle Larson.
Here.
Mayor Richard Gard.
Here. The chair would entertain a motion to excuse Councilwoman Salisbury from tonight's meeting.
So moved.
Second. Councilman Rhoda has the motion. Councilman Bailey has the second. Any discussion? I believe she's been snowed in Laramie since Thursday, if you can believe it. So hopefully she'll be getting out of jail soon. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. I declare that there's a quorum present. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second. Councilwoman Borders has a motion. Councilman Bailey has a second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion passes. Communication from the floor. Citizens' comments. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the council regarding an item that is scheduled for a public hearing will be given the opportunity to speak during that public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the council on other items may speak now. I would ask those individuals who wish to address the council at this time to approach the podium and identify yourself for the record. Appears we have none. Would the city clerk please read the consent agenda items by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Approval of the minutes, March 2nd, 2021, regular council meeting. Approval of the minutes, March 2nd, 2021, executive session. Approval of the minutes, March 16th, 2021, Finance Committee meeting. Approval of the Finance Committee recommendations for March 16th, 2021. And approval of the municipal court report for the month of February 2021.
Thank you. Are there any items requiring further discussion?
Mayor, tonight the Finance Committee was able to meet and approve the consideration of claims to be paid in the amount of $518,450.47, Elan credit card to be paid in the amount of $2,296.57, payroll and liabilities for February 26, 2021 in the amount of $460,548.25 for a total of $981,295.29.
Thank you. Those big numbers are scary, huh?
Choked me up a little.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Borders has the motion. Councilman Bailey has the second. Further discussion from the council?
Your Honor, I'll abstain from the Bailey Enterprises item on the Finance Committee
Okay.
bills.
Anybody else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Consideration of ordinance number 21-001, third and final reading, use and possession of marijuana. Would the city clerk please read ordinance number 21-001 by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed ordinance number 21-001 on third and final reading. An ordinance amending Title IX, Public Peace, Morals, and Welfare, Chapter 9.08, Offenses Against Public Peace and Decency, to establish Section 9.08.240, Use or Possession of Marijuana, of the Riverton Municipal Code, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number 21-001 on third reading.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Borders, nope. Was that
Cox.
Lindsay? Thanks, Lindsay. Councilwoman Cox has the motion and Councilman Bailey the second. Further discussion? Seeing none, would the city clerk please conduct a roll call vote?
Yes, Your Honor. Councilwoman Carla Borders.
Yes.
Councilwoman Lindsay Cox.
Yes.
Councilman Mike Bailey.
Aye.
Councilman Corey Rhoda.
Aye.
Councilman Kyle Larson.
Yes.
Mayor Richard Gard.
Yes. Motion passes. Consideration for the phytoremediation study amendment. You guys said there weren't any big words on it. Public Works Director's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I'll do a little bit of background information because I know we have new members on the council, and also for the benefit of those watching at home or in the audience. But in 2013, the legislature passed House Bill 65, which became Enrolled Act 43, which created the landfill remediation program. The program was created to assist communities with landfills that have high risk to human health and the environment. Qualifying and participating landfills in the program are eligible for 75% of the cost to design, construct, and operate remediation systems and programs for a period of 10 years. After 10 years, the owner of the landfill is responsible for the continued operation and maintenance of that landfill. The City of Riverton Landfill Number 1, which, as we know, is located off of Smith Road where the recreation fields are, and then further to the east, has been identified by the Wyoming Department of Environmental Quality as a high-priority landfill within this remediation program. The city has retained Inberg Miller engineers on 3 occasions to assess the level of contamination at landfill number 1 and to propose remediation options. The first study was conducted in 2015 and provided 4 remediation options. Those were pump and treat, excavate and line, excavate and haul to a close landfill, and then excavate and haul to a new Riverton landfill. Each of these options, as you know, presented significant costs and included variables that were difficult to hone down at that time. Therefore, a second study was performed in 2018, which detailed the type and level of groundwater contamination in the Riverton number 1 landfill. It further honed the location of landfill cells. And then the third study was performed in 2019 and centered on a new remediation strategy utilizing phytoremediation, which in brief is an organic way of treating the waste that's identified in the landfill, particularly the contamination in the groundwater. The city has worked with the Wyoming Department of Environmental Quality on this proposal, and in June of 2020, the City Council again retained Inberg Miller engineers to perform a pilot implementation study for the phytoremediation strategy, and the contract for that is attached in your packet. The purpose of the pilot study was to ensure that the strategy of phytoremediation effectively treated contamination and identified species of trees with the highest rate of survivability. The study was to be conducted over 2 growing seasons, 2020 and 2021. So we're through half of it thus far. It includes approximately 190 trees to be planted in 2 separate areas. The maps of those locations are included in your packet. And the trees include various types of cottonwoods, poplars, and willows. Sand Creek Consultants was able to work with Inberg Miller on this project. With the initial growing season being over, the pilot study is doing exactly what it was meant to do, and that's provide information to us and the DEQ, especially before we jump in for a full-scale implementation of that strategy. IME and Sand Creek Consultants have already begun to identify species and types of those specific species able to survive in the conditions present at landfill number 1. 34% of the poplar and cottonwood variations survived the first growing season, while only 19% of the willows survived. We're looking into the many variables that led to that. More trees similar to those that had the high survivability rate will be planted during the second growing season to replace those that died off. In addition, Sand Creek Consultants will plant new tree varieties to study and assess on this second planting season. The reason these newer ones are being explored is because they weren't available at the time of planting last year. As some of you remember, we jumped into this a little bit late in the growing season and planting season. In addition to these types of trees and the replacement trees, the second growing season is proposed to have additional water source. The first growing season included basically a solar-powered pump that was in an existing test well. And we found that in the first growing season, the water that was coming from that test well had high levels of sodium, which contributed to some of the die-off. And so in working with Inberg Miller, Sand Creek Consultants, and the DEQ, it has been determined that for the second growing season, it would be best from the study standpoint, the tree survivability standpoint, and potentially the full implementation standpoint to bring in city water. Right now we're proposing that a 2-inch poly line run from a fire hydrant that's located at the wastewater treatment plant, and it'll run to the 2 planting areas and tie into the existing drip system that's been installed. We feel that by doing this, we'll eliminate one of those variables that caused some of the die-off, and then also some of the sodium that is in the ground will leach out with the addition of the city water, which again will prepare the area for better success if it comes to a full implementation. Obviously, we're not going to jump into this project whole hog. Maybe I shouldn't say that. We shouldn't jump into this in its entirety until we get the full analysis of the second season of this phyto remediation pilot study. Before you tonight, and thank you for the time on extra explanation, but before you tonight is amendment number 60 with Imberg Miller Engineers. And this basically covers the cost to install that city water line that I referenced, the 2-inch poly line. The cost of which is estimated at $10,500. However, we will receive a credit of $3,500 for that solar system that we used in the first season of the planting. Therefore, the amendment totals $7,000. Right now in the budget, the landfill remediation line item has available just over $6,500. And so approving this amendment will overexpend the landfill remediation line item. However, there is money available within that capital cost center that we can cover the overage with. And that's partly because some of our other projects came in slightly under that we can cover that. Thank you, Your Honor. And I should mention that Eric Nunn from Imberg Miller, who's located in Casper, is on the line as well to answer questions, should you have them.
Thank you for that report. The chair would entertain a motion to approve amendment number 60 to the master service agreement between the City of Riverton and Imberg Miller Engineering for $7,000.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Rhoda has the motion, and Councilwoman Borders has the second. Further discussion? None?
Your Honor,
Yes.
since I wasn't here when this was discussed before, I just have a couple of questions. With it being near the baseball field, does this mean that we have the potential of planting trees closer to the fields? I see on the graph that they're kind of far away. I just wonder how that area was. I'm sure the study was why they planted them in that location, but if it's successful, would they be able to move the trees closer to the baseball fields? Is that what we're going for?
Your Honor, Councilwoman, no, they'd stay on the east side of the landfill, and the purpose of that is so that the contaminants that are generated from the landfill as they move towards the river, those contaminants will be picked up and treated by the different trees. So unfortunately, they won't be planted, closer to the baseball or softball fields. They'll remain on that east end.
And the whole purpose of that phytoremediation is to take the possibility of the pollutants that are underground up into the tree and disperse them, and so we don't have to dig it up or take it out or destroy the fields at all. So that's what we're hoping to do.
Your Honor,
Mike?
should we see if Mr. Nunn has any other comments?
Yeah, if he's even awake. Mr. Nunn, are you still there?
I am. Yep.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Your Honor, and City Council. I think that Kyle did a excellent job summarizing the status of the project, and we believe that this new water line will provide some really good data for this upcoming growing season and allow us to make an accurate recommendation if phytoremediation seems to be the way forward for a full-scale implementation.
Do you have any idea why, other than salt, why the willow trees didn't take as well as the cottonwood? Is it just salt?
The main difference between, Your Honor, the main difference between the poplar cottonwood area and the willow area was actually based on irrigation. The cottonwood poplar area was irrigated with the groundwater from the pump well. The willow area was not irrigated, and it allowed us to see the difference between the performance of the irrigated location compared to the non-irrigated. This upcoming season with the new water line, we're planning to provide irrigation to both, given that the willow trees did not survive as well.
Will you replant willow trees, or will you just plant cottonwoods?
The varieties that we're looking at for this upcoming growing season I think are favoring towards poplars and cottonwoods, just because we had some varieties that had 100% survivability in their species, as well as a couple other species that did very well. And we had a few willows planted within the poplar and cottonwood area, and those did not survive. So we're thinking that the poplar and cottonwood varieties are going to be the best fit.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Sir, is there any benefit to one tree over the other cottonwood as opposed to a willow? Is there one tree that would be best to have?
Certainly. Your Honor, and I'm not certain which councilman had the question.
This Councilman Rhoda has his floor.
Councilman Rhoda, the cottonwoods and poplars will take up more water compared to the willows, so they're advantageous from that standpoint. We want trees that will take up as much groundwater as possible. They're basically acting as organic pumps to treat the water. So it's favorable in that regard. The only downside to the cottonwood and poplar trees is that they're slower growing in general, as well as they're a little more expensive when planting compared to willow stock.
Thank you.
Kyle, the credit that you're proposing there of $3,500 applied from the salvage of the pump, are you going to sell the pump, or do we have a credit back? How do we get that credit for $3,500?
Your Honor, that will just be handled internally with Inberg Miller and their subconsultant, since they provided that piece of equipment and they'll be doing the work. So they'll take that and they'll handle the sale or the repurpose of that pump. We won't be involved in that.
So that pump wasn't very deep, correct? The solar system that ran it was just an array of solar panels, but then the pump itself was set how deep?
Your Honor, I don't remember how deep it was set within that test well. Eric, do you have, by chance, remember how deep that was?
It'd have to be 30 feet or so, right?
Correct. It's even shallower than that. It's about 20 feet was the intake.
Okay. So Enberg Miller gets the pump and gives us a credit. Is that how I'm understanding it? Okay. I hope you guys can use a pump.
Correct. It'll go back to Sand Creek Consultants, and they have several of these units that they'll use on another site.
Oh, super. Okay. Any other questions? We do have the women's softball president with us tonight, and she just wanted to come and see if we're going to tear up her field. Did you have anything you wanted to say?
Yeah, I was just curious.
Could you come up to the mic so everybody can hear you? And give us your name, if you would, please.
It's Missy Metzler. I'm with the Riverton girls softball program, fast pitch softball. So we were just curious with the remediation if that's going to deal with our fields at all, because we have 4 fields for softball. I know Little League has 4, but 2 of our fields are unusable because the slope is not right for the outfield. So we were kind of curious if that's going to be worked into that remediation or not, or if we just lose those 2 fields. We don't want this point.
Kyle, you want to take a swing?
Your Honor, Ms. Metzler, unfortunately, we don't know at this point. The phytoremediation option is preferable to us as a city for a few reasons. One, it's less expensive than some of the other options, and it's also less invasive. As mentioned before, everything will kind of occur far east of where the fields are. If we have to do the dig and haul option or some of these other options, then it is possible that we would have impact on those eastern fields, especially since we assume that those cells are underneath there, and that's what's causing the settling in those fields.
Okay.
It's just very early to tell.
And that's where our concern is, because right now we only have 2 usable fields, and I know we share with the Adult League. In Adult League, they have 17 teams. They did last year. We have about 148 girls 12 to 14 teams, and it's just hard to fit us all into 2 fields. So we were just kind of curious how that would work in it. So
We really do appreciate softball and baseball down there. It's a nice place to have them. So we
Yes.
appreciate all the work that you do. To those 2 fields that lay to the east, we probably can't improve those on, are they on the cap, or is the cap, are we off the cap?
Technically, it's off of what's determined that cap, but I do believe that there are some old cells that are underneath there. Specifically, we're seeing it on the northeast field where sections of that outfield, I mean, Ms. Metzler sees it the best. It really starts to roller coaster in there. And then the southeast field has been just put back to weed. I don't think that's been played on since I've been with the city.
yeah, for 6 years, 7 years, it hasn't been played. So
So if we deem this process to be acceptable and is doing its job, could we then go ahead and improve those 2 fields?
Your Honor, I believe so.
Super. Councilman
Honor.
Bailey?
I guess, do we have an expected date on when we're going to decide that this is or isn't effective? I mean, just in a year, basically? And if so, then we'll know how far how far the trees are all going to be planted away from the fields. And I guess whether this is the right time or not. If it wouldn't take a huge amount of work, and all we had to do is bring some dirt in and level those fields up.
Yeah.
You know, the worst thing we'd be doing is spending a little time and energy getting those back into shape, and then 2 years from now have to tear the heck out of them again. But
Well, and that's what we're trying to avoid, but yeah, as soon as we could make that determination, it would be nice to get those 2 fields
Yeah.
in shape so you have more
double
place
us.
playing.
So yeah,
I think that also affects Little League. Lindsay, can you tell us about your two east fields? Are they
We
affected?
use them still.
Yeah.
But they're for our younger groups, T-ball and coach pitch, so they don't use the outfield as much as the older players. But when we host tournaments, we weren't able to use those 2 fields, so it would be nice to be able to expand over there.
Yeah. So anything we can do to help you, come on back. We appreciate what you guys do.
we appreciate you guys. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Kyle?
One question. Kyle, how do we determine trees grow? They become magnificent forest. They're inhabited by all kinds of wildlife. But that's not what they're there for. How do we determine if we stopped the underwater flow towards the river?
Your Honor, I think Mr. Nunn could probably best answer this question. I have some thoughts myself, but Eric is definitely more qualified in this area. Eric, would you like to answer that?
Yes, certainly. Your Honor, with the trees growing and over their lifetime, the proposed phytoremediation would be to take up contaminants in the groundwater, not necessarily to stop groundwater flow from passing, but more so to take up as much groundwater as possible and treat that through the tree. But there will still be some level of contamination, low-level contamination that would still get past the system and move towards the river like it is currently. The idea is just to reduce that to where it's balanced with the amount of trees that we have growing and the amount of groundwater that can flow through the site based on geologic conditions.
And Your Honor, in addition to that, perhaps I can add, the only way to really tell is to do monitor wells again and to test those levels of contamination that Mr. Nunn referenced
And those
above and below
contaminants
stream.
are-
Multiple. I can go through them if you'd like.
I wish you would.
Okay. And Your Honor, you'll forgive me, I'm pulling up the monitor report right now. As far as contaminants, I have a table here it's about 50 long, and so I won't go through all of them, but I'd be happy to share this with you.
About the upper ones that are most threatening, the lead, mercury,
So there's high levels of chloride, there's high levels of sulfate, there's high levels of calcium, magnesium, pH levels are high, cadmium is high,
Okay.
iron is high, manganese is high, excuse me, nickel is high, thallium is high, and there's several others, but I can definitely send those over to you so you see the full picture.
The reason why, normally in this water, we have high calcium, we have high chlorides, and we have high sulfates, and we have high irons. And none of those are in the neighborhood of Thermopolis.
Right.
So, you know, I really think the trees are gonna do a great job, but remember, the previous report talked about a tight grain sand, and they weren't moving as fast as they thought they were. Kind of disappointed they were. And stopped them from, you know, moving all that dirt to Lander
Shucks.
and all our money.
Well, and if I remember right, I think Kyle's on track. One of the problems was this contamination was not moving, it was pooled. Is that not correct?
Yes, Your Honor, that is part of the problem that we have.
And so what we're trying to do is and through the use of this over time, we're hoping that the trees will absorb those contaminants and purify the water source as it goes by. And then I would assume the monitoring wells will be on the east side of the tree line so that we can see if it's moving any further than the tree line.
Your Honor, that's what would make sense to me. Once we get through this pilot study and we get more into the full implementation, we'll definitely address those items.
And so just so everybody knows, if this does not work, are we back to dig and remove, or where are we at?
Your Honor, if this does not work and we do not have a recommendation from this pilot study, we will have to analyze the other options that have already been explored, which again are significantly more costly.
Okay. Everybody have a shot? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed say nay. Motion passes. Public hearing and consideration of resolutions number 1432, 1433, 1434, utility rate increase. Financial Director's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. For the benefit of the folks in the room, as well as the ones that are viewing, I do want to provide a little bit of history for you with regard to our utility services and the proposed rate increase. One of the critical roles of elected officials in municipal government is to provide, maintain, improve, and regulate the use of water treatment and distribution systems, sewer and waste disposal systems, and sanitation collection and disposal. It's a requirement that municipalities operate these systems in a way that monies received and expended are on a fund basis, whereby they must each be separated from other operations. So bear in mind that our utilities and all of the funding for those are kept separate from all other city operations. These funds are commonly referred to as enterprise funds and are set up to operate as a business. A common misconception in communities is that rates charged for utilities help to support all aspects of city government, and that is not the case. Rates charged for utilities are to pay the cost to provide each service to its citizens. Enterprise funds rates should generate adequate revenue to pay costs of operation and maintenance, as well as establishing replacement funds for future capital needs. In 2018, the city engaged Getting Great Rates, LLC, a third-party experienced utility consulting firm, to analyze the city's utility rate structure and its associated costs. The analysis assisted in determining what funding levels utilities need to accomplish needed system development, refurbishment, repair, maintenance, operation, and ongoing sustainability. The consultant examined a substantial amount of data, and I'm just going to list off some of the things that he reviewed. All financial data, including historical itemized budgets, income and expense statements, balance sheets, operational costs, borrowing and debt history, including historical and future ongoing obligations, equipment repair and replacement schedules, capital improvement needs, including timing and costs, volume usage data, rates and fee tables, and prior rate resolutions, and also system-wide meter inventories, including the costs and efficiency ratios. So you can see the decisions and the analysis behind this was definitely data-driven versus the arbitrary decision to raise rates and pick an arbitrary number. The consultant provided detailed results of the study at the City Council work session on October 8th, 2019, at which time the Council did approve a change in the rate structure and the pricing both. The report included a recommendation of minimal annual rate increases to support ongoing and future costs. I did do, at this time, the city staff does recommend an increase of 3% to the water and wastewater fund rates and 2% to the sanitation rates pursuant to the recommendation of the rate study. And I did conduct a small analysis to give you an idea of the dollar amount that our citizens could potentially be impacted. Now, keep in mind that we have several meter sizes, which is how our rates are structured. And then depending on the amount of a household usage, the amount of an increase could change on a per bill. We do have 4,129 3/4-inch meters in our utility system, which is generally the majority of our residential users. I calculated out an increase for a bill for water, sewer, and garbage services based on 4,000 gallons worth of water usage. Should this rate increase be approved, it would affect a customer bill by $2.54 per month. I also conducted some analysis on a 2-inch water meter, which is a large amount of our commercial customers. Based on a 4,000-gallon water usage, a customer with a commercial garbage container with a commercial business or a 2-inch water meter would be impacted by $5.05 a month. There are 89 users in our system that would fall under this category. So based on this information, city staff does recommend approval of resolutions 1432, 1433, and 1434 to adjust the city utility rates. And I would stand for any questions that you would have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Would the city clerk please read resolution number 1432, 1433, and 1434 by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed resolution number 1432, a resolution adjusting the amount of user fees for the City of Riverton water system. Proposed resolution number 1433, a resolution adjusting the amount of user fee for the City of Riverton's wastewater system. And proposed resolution number 1434, a resolution adjusting rates for the collection and disposal of garbage, rubbish, and debris.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to open a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Borders has the motion and Councilman Bailey has the second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passed. I declare a public hearing open. The public hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statute and other applicable laws. I would ask those individuals wishing to address the council to approach the podium and identify yourself for the records. Seeing none in the audience wishing to speak, the chair would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Rhoda has a motion. Councilman Bailey has a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passed. The chair would entertain a motion to approve resolution 1432.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Borders has the motion. And Councilman Bailey has the second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passed. The chair would entertain a motion to approve resolution number 1433.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Cox has the motion, and Councilwoman Borders beat Councilman Bailey to the punch on the second. Any discussion? Kyle?
Do we have any services with an 8-inch system or an 8-inch water connection?
I think that's a question that Mia could answer best for us, or Kyle.
Your Honor,
Yes,
we have one.
1 8-inch line. Can you tell us where it's going?
I believe it's the Honor Farm, sir.
So it's that big of a facility. Okay, thank you.
I think probably, to be fair with that discussion, it was probably going past the Honor Farm, and so the lateral had to be put in larger than smaller.
Just looking at the connection fee and swallowing.
Yeah, you want to be careful what you're connecting to. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passed. The chair would entertain a motion to approve resolution number 1434.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bailey has the motion. Councilwoman Cox has the second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. Motion passed. Public hearing and consideration of ordinance number 21-002, first reading on the adoption of the National Electric Code, the NEC-NFPA 70. Community Development Director's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. The NFPA 70, the National Electric Code, is a triennial publication produced by the National Fire Protection Association. It sets a minimum standard which electrical work is to be completed and is automatically adopted by the state of Wyoming via reference to the most current edition. The latest version of the NEC, Circuit 2020, was adopted by the state on July 1st, 2020. The City of Riverton currently operates under the 2017 edition of the NEC, the predecessor to the 2020 version now available. The state of Wyoming grants authority over electrical construction to the Department of Fire Prevention and Electrical Safety in Title 35 Public Health and Safety, Chapter 9 Fire Protection, and more specifically through the State Fire Marshal's Office. Under Wyoming Statute 359121A, the State Fire Marshal shall delegate complete authority to municipalities and counties which apply to enforce and interpret local or state fire, existing building standards, or electrical safety standards. The City of Riverton has maintained local enforcement authority under this provision since it was made available in approximately 1976. As a caveat, Wyoming Statute 359121A2 stipulates municipalities granted local enforcement authority shall adopt the same version of the NEC as the state, or enforcement authority shall revert immediately to the department or back to the state. In other words, electrical work in the state of Wyoming is subject to compliance with the current edition of the NEC. Those municipalities and counties who possess local enforcement authority under state law can either choose to adopt the same version of the NEC as the state or relinquish their local enforcement authority. If this option is taken, the state would oversee permitting, plan review, and inspection duties for commercial and public electrical work, permitting and plan review and inspection duties for new residential electrical work, and at least permitting work for contractors working on existing residential units. Homeowners may elect to have the work inspected for an additional fee from the state. According to Mark Young, the Assistant State Fire Marshal, the State Fire Marshal's Office is not in favor of this outcome. They do not have the workforce to accommodate the increased workload, which has the potential to produce significant delays for those doing the work. Ordinance 21-002 is modeled after the mechanism the state uses for adoption. As written, the ordinance would allow for the adoption of this and subsequent versions of the NEC concurrently with the state. This provides several benefits. We won't have to go through the lengthy ordinance process every 3 years, all things being equal, of course. This adoption mechanism will provide more consistency for those supplying electrical equipment and performing electrical work because it eliminates the potential gap between when the city and the state adopt. The City of Riverton will always be in compliance with state law and retain its local enforcement authority. And budgetary cost savings will be provided through decreased advertising costs associated with the adoption of the ordinance on a triennial basis. Ordinance 21-002 was reviewed by the Construction Board of Appeals on March 11th and was recommended for approval to the City Council unanimously. With that, I'd stand for any questions you might have.
Thank you. Would the city clerk please read ordinance number 21-002 by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Proposed ordinance number 21-002 on first reading. An ordinance amending Title 15, Building Construction, Chapter 15.04, Building Construction and Maintenance Codes, Section 15.04.010, Adoption, Applicability, Filing, Subsection Title A10 of the Riverton Municipal Code, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to open a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Rhoda has the motion. Councilman Bailey has the second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. I now declare the public hearing open. The hearing will be conducted in accordance with state law and other applicable laws. I would ask those individuals wishing to address the council to approach the podium. Identify yourself for the record.
Seeing none, Your Honor, I would move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Bailey and a second by Councilwoman Borders. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. The chair would entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number 21-002 on first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bailey has the motion and Councilman Rhoda has the second. Further discussion. This has me somewhat perplexed, and I would hope that we could pass on this ordinance for 60 days or so. I got this information just out of the blue last Thursday, was it? And so I should have been at that 18th meeting that Eric had, and I would have been up to date. But I have talked to 3 electricians in the county, one in Lander, one in 2 in Riverton. The new code has been accepted by, help me, Tony, when I get off, 9 different states have adopted or are in the process. No, 9 have adopted the 2020, and Wyoming is one of those states. 12 additional states are in the process of looking into it, which is a total of 21 states.
I believe that's correct, Your Honor.
The balance of the states, which when I went to school there was 50, have not taken an effort to move to the 2020 code. And so I have problems with the adoption of it. Some of the electricians tell me it can cost as much as $1,500 to $2,000 in addition on a 2,000 square foot home. Another electrician tells me it could be as low as $500. It has a lot of other problems, like Eric addressed. It has, if we choose not to address it, we go immediately back to the state of Wyoming, who I called today. One electrician gave me the number, and the phone picked up immediately and went to a voice recording that said, you've called after our business hours. Our business hours are from Monday to Friday, 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and click you couldn't leave a message or anything. And I was calling in at 3:24. And so I don't know that it's the greatest idea to kick loose to the state. We have a better system set up now with local administration. So I think we could maybe get some, Eric, am I understanding your thought on it is we don't have home rule any longer if we accept this?
Your Honor, that's correct.
So just so everybody knows, that means that if we chose to amend something out of the electrical code, we could not. And I'll try to get further clarification from the state of Wyoming and see if that's the case. Eric said that it would be difficult, and we know the situation that the state's in financially. So it's not like they're going to be able to put on 40 inspectors that could cover towns as efficiently as we cover Riverton. And so currently we're covered by an inspector out of Casper, and all three of the electricians know him, and he's a really nice guy, but his ability to cover that much space is questionable. So that's my thought, and that's my part of the discussion. I don't know how everybody else feels about it. Councilman Bailey.
Your Honor, again, as it's explained, I think our wonderful state put us in a position where they just should have said, we get it, period. And why do we even have to approve it? If we don't approve it, it goes back to them, which means you approve it. So I guess, you know, I agree that it's not real comfortable, but I don't think in this case we really have a whole lot of choice, because if we choose not to approve it, we've automatically given it back to the state, which I agree would be far less productive. You know, being able to get an inspector here in a timely manner would be challenging. And the odds are they're going to be more stringent than the local inspector would be. Probably not a whole lot different, but you know, to wait, 2 weeks to get your inspection, have him come in and tell you you didn't do something right and you got to fix it, and I'll call me when you're done and I'll get another 2 weeks to come and inspect whether you fixed it right. You know, you could really extend a project out huge, where at least now with the city of Riverton, we get very good response, I think, in getting the inspections. I don't want to brag up Dave too much, but I think in general, we get pretty good response from the city in getting out there and inspecting the things that we need inspected. So I think, unfortunately, we're in a position where we just sort of have to take our licking and enjoy it.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I should also note that there is a time stipulation in state statute of 6 months. So in statute 359121A2, if a municipality or county that has been granted local enforcement authority under this section fails to adopt within 6 months following the adoption of the state, or maintain standards by ordinance or resolution that at least meet the statewide standards, authority shall revert immediately back to the department. In conversations with the state fire marshal's office, because we were having trouble filling the positions on our construction board of appeals, and then finding a time that they could actually get together all at the same time, they've been more than gracious in working with us on getting through our adoption of the NEC as well. But there is a time limit of 6 months, technically. So.
6 months from when?
July 1st date. We're in the extended grace period.
2 months past that time period?
Yeah.
Great. That should make it easy to fix. Anybody else have any questions before I ramble on?
I do not, sir.
Kyle, you done?
You don't want to get me started. No, sir, I have none.
If we do that, we don't. Do we have to send Dave away to get his? Does he have to get a master's license or a journeyman's license to inspect electricity?
That is another requirement. We're working on that as well with the state as well. That was a change from 2017.
So if we adopt this today, we won't be in compliance anyway because we don't have somebody that's able to do the inspections. Is that correct?
The state is allowing us to do that until we can find a suitable solution to meet state statute as well.
I would still like the opportunity to continue to talk to the electricians in our community and county and see what we can come up with, and maybe we don't need 60 days, but as long as we're going to do this, I think it wouldn't hurt to get some discussion of where does home rule stop.
Your Honor, we can certainly also remove the second reading from consent and have a discussion there as well as third reading, just as we move.
Correct, and if we let it go through the first and second reading, we would be to the end of April?
Correct.
Well, the middle of April.
Middle of April, yes.
Middle of April. So we can do that too. It's just that I think this is a gun at your head arrangement, and I don't appreciate it. And I certainly we're going to talk to the legislators from Fremont County to see what they thought when they made this happen.
We can approve it under duress.
I'm going to vote no, so you guys can vote any way you want. Yes.
This is a typical bureaucratic. None of us here are electricians. Now, Mike can fix a motor, and I can blow air in an inner tube, but I can't tell you what's wrong and right with an electrical system. And yet we're voting on this. And secondly, what has so dramatically changed that we need to update from what was perfect in the past? I know that, we've got to keep up with the times, and, oh man, we got to do this and we've got to have that. And, I grew up without seat belts in a car. I don't know how I did it. And I grew up without ground faults in every outlet in the world. I don't know why. I even used to stick nails with caps on them and blow out fuses. So, I mean, we cannot protect from the womb to the tomb. We cannot do it. But that's what I've said enough.
Well, and I think the problem that we have is how do we build affordable housing when we're constantly adding costs to the initial. And I don't think anything's unsafe. I think 29 states are at least at the 2017 code, and some are clear back at 2004 code. They don't see a reason to pass it legislatively. The state can't even pick up their phone and answer a question or two. So how are they gonna do with the rest of that? And so if you want to proceed with this for the vote, I see no reason not to go ahead and collect the vote and move it on to the next time. I just don't think this is a long-reaching effort, and to be real truthful, they put it on our backs because that's the easy blame. And everybody can say, well, the city council approved it, so what if it adds, I don't care if it adds $50. We're right now concerned about the water bill that adds, Mia, what did you say the ad was, $2?
$2.54.
Your Honor, do we know what other cities have said?
Well, I talked to Lander today, and I believe Lander has passed it. Eric, do you know who's passed it and who hasn't?
In the calls that I made around the state, Cheyenne, Sheridan, Gillette, Cody, all of the communities with local enforcement authority from the state have passed.
Have you had direct conversation on home rule? Is home rule completely out of the electrical code if we adopt this?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
if we have home rule, we can amend the ordinance, but we cannot amend the electrical code? We can't take anything out of the electrical code, is that correct?
That's correct. And I believe in conversations with the State Fire Marshal's office, adoption of the building code by the state of Wyoming does not have an enforcement arm. And so they adopt the building code for their own structures when they build a new school or when they build a new YDOT station. They want those standards to be utilized when they construct those facilities, but there's no enforcement arm. With the electrical safety, there is an enforcement arm via the State Fire Marshal's office. So under that, when they adopt the NEC, because there's an enforcement arm, they will grant local enforcement authority to those municipalities that have the ability to do that. But if the community doesn't, they're still going to enforce that 2020 NEC. And then when it comes down to the licensing of the electricians, regardless of where they're at in the state, they still fall under, because they are licensed through the state of Wyoming, they still fall under that jurisdiction of whatever NEC is adopted by the state. So regardless of either Fremont County or, say, Riverton adopting, their licensure still depends on following whatever current regulation is in place. So it is exactly what Councilman Bailey said. This is kind of a hard pill to swallow, because they're essentially forcing the issue if we want to remain in a position where we have local enforcement authority.
And I find the interesting part of that is that we'll go ahead and let you inspect, but you're going to have a journeyman. Is a journeyman or a master's license to inspect?
And or. So that is State Statute 359121A4. If code enforcement authority for the electrical code is requested, certification of an electrical inspector by the International Code Council or the International Association of Electrical Inspectors, and licensing by the state as a journeyman or master electrician. So
they're going to be kind enough to excuse us and let us continue doing it the way we are if we are kind enough to pass their motion. And then if we aren't, they're going to take over from the state control.
Correct.
That doesn't seem like a lot of option to me, without any governmental action on our side. And so I don't think this, and do we intend to do we intend to get a licensed electrician to inspect for us, or are we gonna have Dave take the test, or what are we gonna do?
We're looking into options. We're not going to rule out anything at this point. We're looking. I have received notification through the state AG's office that contract labor also will suffice for that. So there's a potential that we could have a pool of master electricians that could perform electrical inspection.
And so everybody understands that. What we would do is we would get some local master electricians that would volunteer, and we could pay them, I would suppose, an inspection fee, and they would go out and inspect any job that you had a building permit for and sign off that it was done correctly.
Other than their own work.
Yeah, they wouldn't do their own work. They could do. Could the owner of the building or the contractor pick who off your list who you wanted to send?
I would have to look into that. I don't know. I would imagine so, but I don't know.
Okay. So there would be a fee associated with that, and then you also read in that there is no fee required in the 2020 code for residential, but it's offered, and that fee is around $100 for residential?
So the state has a flat $40 rate for their permit fee, and then they charge 50 cents per amp to your service for your home. So if your home, most are 200 amps, so that would be about, it would be exactly $200 or $100 for that 200 amp service for any electrical inspection that the state was to do.
So being on the amps, if you had 400 amps, you just keep going up in price, right?
Correct. 50 cents per amp.
Yeah, please.
Per inspection or total?
That is,
Final inspection.
Your Honor, so I believe, and I'm not super familiar with their rate structure, but there is the original inspection fee, and then if items are determined to be in non-compliance, there's a re-inspection fee, and I'm not exactly sure how they base that, if it's still based on the amps or if it's based on a flat rate.
So is there not a state fee already that if you're out in the county, you have to apply and get a state permit to do electrical work? And you have had to do that for the last 5 years or so. They issue a permit, and that it's a nominal fee. It's somewhere in the $30 range, and then you give that to the provider of power at your site, and then they can hook you up. Isn't that correct?
Your Honor, I believe so. Electrical wiring permits are required whenever there's new construction, or if the utility provider is going to have to disconnect and reconnect the power supply to whatever structure you're working on. When they're not required is if it's a private homeowner that is working on their own residence without a licensed electrician. As soon as they subcontract that work, then that subcontractor is required to obtain the permit and then obviously follow the adopted code. All that said, in state statute, it also states that regardless of who does the work, it still has to meet whatever version of the NEC is in place at the time, whether it gets inspected or not.
Okay. So you got all the, if that's clear as mud, are you ready? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Your Honor, you got
Please.
John Metzler. I was actually here with my wife for the softball, but I happen to be a licensed master electrician.
All right.
And was sitting here going through the conversations. Yeah, excuse me, sorry, allergies. I promise it is allergies. One of the issues that you are opening yourselves up to if you fail to adopt the newest electrical code, whether you agree with every nuance in it or not, say you stay with the 2017 code and there is a fire, house burns down on new construction, and that's the code, your standard, and the investigation comes back to being a electrical issue. I can almost guarantee you that a lawyer would be all over that failure to provide adequate protection based upon nationally recognized standards laid out for this country. So I would, whether you agree with every detail that's in the 2020 version or not, that is the current standard for all new construction, whether you like it or not. So I would highly recommend that you continue staying with the current standards.
So the 29 states that have not passed the 2020 code, they're not held to that, correct?
I would question whether or not how much involved with a electrical wiring malfunction and lawsuits would come out of such a thing. That's to me the worst case scenario for the city as the organization endorsing the standard and saying we refuse to follow the current standard that is now rolled out. We're going to actually reduce one standard even behind what the state is doing outside of the community. That's my concern with not doing it. As an electrician, yes, it does add costs. Every round of the National Electrical Code has added costs as newer technologies have come into play. But then as those technologies become standardized, costs have come back down. Once upon a time, it was $50 or more to buy a ground fault receptacle. Now you can get them in boxes at Home Depot for a 10-pack for that. So yes, costs go up for a while and then they'll come back down as the industry's accepted and everybody else starts manufacturing things.
Thank you for your information. I appreciate it. Are we back? Everybody ready? All in favor, say aye.
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 I'm abstaining.
You're abstaining?
Yep.
So who's an aye? 1, 2, 3 ayes. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Nay. You. So we have a 3-3 position. What do we do, Tony?
Your Honor, at this point, if anything ties, it does not pass. So you have not passed it. It has died on first reading.
Okay. So this isn't going to go away because we didn't pass it.
We'll bring it up next time.
So, and I don't want to not pass it. I want to get to where we understand it correctly. So, and I want to understand what we can't do so that I can explain that to people when they call us and say, why in the world did you pass this code? So I would encourage Eric and Tony to bring it back, and we'll find better information to where we're comfortable with changing our votes.
Your Honor?
Yes.
If I may, if there are particular questions with regard to either what was presented tonight or any other facet of this, that we can provide specific clarification on, we will look towards the questions that were asked tonight, the items that were provided, seek input from the state, of course, as the mayor denoted, to make sure that everything that we're providing you still lines up, and then we'll probably provide this in either 2 weeks or 4. If there are any questions, we would ask that you forward those to me, and so we can get those answered and make sure that when we bring it back to you, it's in its entirety. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Just for Tony, if we could at least get an outline of the major differences between the two, that would be helpful. I mean, obviously, I don't know the entire code, but I'd like to know what the major differences are to the new code.
I don't know if the difference is improvements. You know, why am I getting such a good car?
Your Honor, I'm not so sure I mean, that's a qualitative judgment. So we can provide you the differences.
Okay, I mean, like the changes to the.
Yes, yes, I believe we can.
I have an entire book.
Okay. I know. I don't know if I can read the whole book, but.
It's only this big a book.
Okay.
And so we really do have to rely on the experts. But what I really I want to get to the situations of where are we. Once again, we find ourselves passing a rule that we have no control on. And so why are they forcing our hand to pass a rule? And if they've already adopted it statewide, then we should go the other direction. And so I will do my very best to work with staff and all involved to bring that to an end that is pleasing for the state. I do not want state inspectors that don't answer their phone to be in charge of those calls. And so we'll do our best to get our own people back in place, whether those are contract services or whether we're able to do that in-house. Does that make sense? And then, unfortunately, it appears that the motion failed. So that takes us to the conclusion, unless there's anything, is there anything else that we need to do for the script?
I do not believe so, Your Honor.
So we're down to council committee reports and council members roundtable. Carla, could you start us off, please?
Yes, Your Honor. I don't have a lot to report tonight. Corey has the minutes for the community engagement meeting last night. I was unable to attend. With that, that's all I have.
Thank you. Lindsay?
I went to the PAWS meeting last week, and they've just started discussion on their Paws and Pearls fundraiser that will be September 11th. So that's really all we talked about at that meeting, and I don't have anything else.
Thank you. Mike?
I attended the Force Committee meeting again, which they're at full steam ahead, getting plans for the projects for this summer. You know, the details finalized so that we can put those items out to bid. We've got several projects on the agenda. When they figure that out and have them out to bid, I'll let you know which ones those are. But again, they're working hard to be very careful and frugal in, you know, using our 1% funds to fix the streets and stuff in Riverton. They do a good job with that. So Hill Street is a project that they ended up not getting done last year that will be definitely has been approved already, and they'll be starting on that this spring. And they're starting on the design for Sunset. There's a irrigation lateral that we have to deal with and a bunch of other stuff. So, you know, that'll be a couple of year project overall. And then some others that we haven't decided on exactly which ones we're doing. So I also attended the Riverton Ambassadors meeting, and again, there's lots of great things coming down the pike for this summer. They're going to have the Riverton Happy Days like we did last year. The Arts in Action did cancel the day in the park again, and so we're going to try to pick up the slack for that and try to have some kind of an event along that line, and so that's going. The Fremont County Fair's having their Barn Bash fundraiser, which is, I got an email said that they're sold out, so that is full, and they've sold up all the areas for that to raise money for the Friends of Fair to do some improvements down on the fairgrounds. So again, that's a great project for the city and the county.
Electrically, I might point out.
Huh?
Electrically, I might point out.
Yes. So we better raise more money now. And so, yeah, lots of great things coming for activities this summer. And again, it was great that the governor, you know, opened things up a little bit. So that'll help with some of these activities, and we won't have to quite be as cautious as we have been in the past with the events and stuff. And then, not to do with the city, but I had the opportunity to be at the Cody Yellowstone Regional Airport Board meeting regarding another matter, but they gave their report, and their boardings are down about 50% this year from last year. And that's, you know, pre-COVID numbers, because it was, I think, January and February they were talking about. They were down about 50%. And so I really think the Riverton Airport has been doing very well, because we are very close to matching our numbers from last year. And so I think we're doing a great job. Another thing that the Ambassadors is working on is, as a lot of you know, the Jackson Airport is going to be closed in 2022 from about the middle of April through the middle of August, doing some runway rehabilitation and repair. And so, you know, we're looking into, you know, ways that we can possibly help pick up some of that slack from the Jackson Airport being shut down. So the Jackson Airport deals with approximately 350,000 boardings a year, which is more than all the other airports in Wyoming put together. And so obviously there's going to be a lot of passengers that can't get where they're going, so we're hoping they will choose Riverton as one of the alternatives for getting into the fine state of Wyoming to go visit Yellowstone and hopefully hang out around here also. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Corey?
All right, Mayor, I've got a couple things. One of the first ones I want to talk about is the Boys and Girls Club. They are having a breakfast for Mary Margaret Stockton. It's a recognition breakfast. This is going to be April 27th. Breakfast will be served at 6:30, and the program begins at 7. They do ask for donations or support. To reserve tickets or below, you can just go to BGCCW, which is Boys and Girls Club CentralWyoming.org. Again, that's BGCCW.org. If you'd like to get any tickets or even a table or even just donate and support any of the kids, it's a really great cause, and it's come so close to fruition that you know, any support we can get is great. The Community Engagement Committee did meet. I didn't attend myself, but I got a couple of the notes. They are going to have a community cleanup event. That's going to be April 22nd from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Tony might be able to elaborate if they have a location specified for that. They also have a couple events coming up May 1st and May 31st. They'll have a Help for Hospice 5K, and then they'll also do a fairgrounds cleanup May 1st. They'll kick the kicking trash back off again. Those are really all I have to report as far as committees. I do want to take a moment and thank everybody. This will unfortunately be my last city council meeting. My wife and I have accepted a position in Michigan, and we're very excited for our new adventure. It's very bittersweet. A quote that came to mind for me was the difference between intelligence is anything you can learn, but wisdom is only gained through experience. So I just want to thank everybody for the tremendous amount of experience that I've gained from everybody. You've all been so helpful and open arms with me. I've told several of you countless times I feel like I'm way out of my league up here, and I get imposter syndrome every time I come up here. So I just want to thank everybody. This isn't a goodbye. It's I'll see you later. We're going to be taking off here in the next couple weeks, and I just wanted to formally thank everybody for everything, the opportunity to represent my constituent, and the trust and faith that they've put in me to make their decisions and reflect their opinions and voices or concerns, whatever it may be. I've truly got to know some really great people, and I appreciate all of you immensely. I don't want to drag this on. I'm not very good at this stuff, so I will just say thank you all so much for everything. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll miss you. We've enjoyed your company. Kyle.
We attended last the airport, and Mike's talked about that. That's a great opportunity for us to shine, being close as we are. And so this coming Friday, we have an airport meeting. Is that right? Okay. Yeah, at 8 o'clock. So, and it's always really fun because we've got some live people in there that want to progress and move forward. But anyway, the meeting that I attended yesterday was the trash collection. No, it's not the trash collection.
Solid waste.
Fremont County Solid Waste Disposal District. And they've been going through a lot of mental gymnastics. I was talking to Tony before the meeting, and a lot of their money coming from us is from tax receipts. And their tax receipts in 2017, 2018 were $3,500,000. Right now it's down to $875,000. Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to put 2 points together and see that it's going down. And so consequently, they've been thinking about their whole card. And their whole card, they've not adopted it, but they call it the atomic model, is to shut everything down except out there on our property, outside of Riverton. And they will be able to do all they're doing and continue with the process at $80 a ton. Remember, you wanted to ship it to Billings because that's what the price, or to Casper or wherever. Now they can, right now, they can handle everything that we're doing at $40 a ton at Sandral. But the gimmies like free electrical disposal, motor oil, appliances, all the other stuff, that's a chargeback. That really costs some money, but they waive those fees. So $80 would cover that total fee. And they're looking at demodernizing because the tax base is going down. And the industrial tax base is what really pays the bills in Wyoming. We're an extractive state. We get money from shipping out coal and gas and petroleum. And when the current administration frowns on all of those carboniferous materials and only wants to plug into electricity, which I don't know where that comes from, but so they're worried about whether they're going to have the money. And the money is still available at $80 a ton if they shut everything down and send it all to Sandro. Oh, and the tub grinder is coming in April, am I right? So we'll be able to recycle our heavier woods, etc. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Tony, do you have anything to add?
Yes, Your Honor. Just a couple of meetings. As pointed out, the airport board does meet Friday at 8 a.m. It'll be here at City Hall. FCAG will be meeting on the 25th, Thursday the 25th in Hudson, preceded by the Wind River Visitor Council meeting in the AM, so we might be driving that day. So we will be attending that one as well. EDGE Committee will meet this Thursday at 6 p.m. We would remind everybody that those applications are due by the end of the first round of applications are due by the end of this month, so March 31st. If anybody has any questions, they're welcome to call me directly at City Hall, and we'll get those answered. We have had a couple groups that have asked, had some questions about that, and we've been happy to answer them. That committee will be reviewing its matrix for evaluation and setting that up, so they'll have that once they start hearing formal proposals and going through those proposals in April. I would remind everybody in the general public and with council that our contracts for services are due April 1st. Those are the PAWs, those are all the different service organizations within our community. They're doing work. Their applications to the city are due by April 1st. So if anybody is requesting money or any of your boards are unfamiliar with that, please let them know so we have those in hand. If they have any questions, they're again welcome to call City Hall at their leisure. I was at the engagement committee meeting, and as Councilman Rhoda pointed out, April 22nd is to clean up the location. To my knowledge, hasn't been determined, but we will be bringing that out and we will be advertising it. There's also we are also looking at the development of a end of school year event at Sunset Park. We've reserved that park for that day starting at about 11:30 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. just to cut out that in the whole area. All the offerings of that particular event haven't been determined.
Is that going to be on Zoom?
Your Honor, I don't think we can Zoom that big. Might get an aerial drone. It might work. That could be fun. But that's going to be kind of an end of the year party. We're looking at options such as movies, putting an older movie in the park or something, trying to figure that out. We're working through those steps to make sure that we see what we can do. We'll advise more as that comes forward, but we have reserved that time, so put a placeholder for us.
Any firecrackers?
I'll put a pin in that one too. I don't honestly know yet. I would express our sincere appreciation to Councilman Rhoda. It's been a pleasure working with you. We've appreciated the questions you've asked of us and all the work that you've done on behalf of the city. You volunteered a whole bunch of time. Every time we have an event, he's on the DJ. He's DJing it. He's been an integral part of the Rendezvous Games and a number of other events. And thank you very much. You will be very much so missed. We do have a party gift, but sorry, there was a snowstorm. It didn't get here. I'm going to blame it on that. That sounds like
Probably held up by the post office.
Probably.
Probably.
Turns out the postman's on vacation. No, I'm just kidding.
Somebody stole the package.
That will be, we will forward that on. And again, council, as a reminder, with the resignation we'll receive a letter from Councilman Rhoda. At the next meeting, you would need to declare a vacancy, accept the resignation, declare a vacancy, and then we would go through the process which we've gone through before.
If we don't accept his resignation, does he have to stay?
Your Honor, I think there may be a Zoom component.
Chief, could you look into that possibly?
I'll split.
We do have a cell open that we could use.
I just need a pillow and a blanket for the wife.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we will miss you. You have been an excellent, excellent help, and I appreciate all that you have done for the city of Riverton and for your ward. You've represented your ward well. So we've been busy this week, and we've covered a lot of space, and I won't belabor people with where we've been and how we've done it. But I do appreciate your service and that time you put in. The opportunities in front of us are many, and we appreciate those in the audience that have come out this evening to help us with the decisions that we've made. And we don't have an executive, do we?
No, Your Honor, we do not.
And so we stand adjourned if no one is opposed to that at 8:30.